It is one of the most relentless places on the planet. At every moment, thousands of creatures struggle between life and death in this dense and suffocating jungle. In the Congo, survival grants no reprieve. Predators, hidden among the tangle of leaves and shadows, lie in wait with patience, ambushing without warning and tearing without mercy, staining the murky streams and the waterlogged ground with blood. The landscape is not merely a backdrop. Here, the heat, the humidity, and the thick vegetation exert absolute control over every creature that dares to inhabit it. It is not only about enduring the constant rains or avoiding the beasts, but about understanding that this land imposes its own rules. What for some is a green and inaccessible hell, for others is a vital stage where each species has perfected its cunning, its endurance, and its instinct. Branches and lianas conceal prey, reveal tracks, and write stories of survival in the mud. Days are brief beneath the thick canopy, nights total darkness, and in that precarious balance, life endures. There is no room for error here. Every creature knows its role, every movement comes at a cost, and every decision can mean the difference between continuing or vanishing. The brutal clashes between hunters and prey do not cease, and the violence inherent to this jungle manifests in every encounter, where strength, cunning, and cruelty dictate fate. Welcome to the Congo, a place where every sunrise is a sentence and every creature a survivor. The mist dissipates quickly, and the birdsong marks the beginning of the day. The damp ground reveals fresh tracks of animals that crossed during the night. The light grows stronger and the sounds of the jungle intensify, a sign that everything is stirring once more. A pride of lions begins to stretch slowly. The air still holds a trace of the nighttime coolness, but the sun is already gaining ground and forces the animals to seek shade. The adult lionesses rise one after another, shaking off the dust accumulated during the night. Some approach the cubs to sniff them and keep them together, while others scan the surroundings with a brief glance before settling once more on the dry ground. The males remain apart, in no hurry to move, attentive to the movements of their group and any foreign figure that might cross the plain. There is no intention to hunt. The pride has roamed its territory during the early morning hours, and as often happens in these areas, the bulk of the day will be spent resting. Some lionesses move from one patch of shade to another, trying to avoid the first rays, while the younger ones play at a cautious distance under the constant watch of the older females. Vigilance is not completely relaxed. Although no immediate danger is perceived, the behavior of certain birds in the nearby bushes and the slight movement in the dry grass are enough to keep their attention divided between rest and environmental awareness. The movement is orderly, without unnecessary noise, with the lionesses at the front and the males closing ranks at a distance. They spot an adult antelope feeding distractedly, with its head down and paying no attention to its surroundings. A mistake that will cost it dearly. The pride recognizes the opportunity instantly. They know its horns can break ribs or pierce the belly of an attacker, and that facing it as a group minimizes that risk, multiplying the chances of success. The strategy is immediate. Several lionesses begin to encircle it, closing the distance while others remain crouched in the opposite direction to block its retreat. When the antelope lifts its head, it is already too late. It runs, and behind it the chase begins. The lions take turns reaching it, digging their claws into the back of the animal, trying to stop its sprint. The antelope kicks violently into the air, but the felines maintain pressure. When it seems that speed might save it, several lions pounce at once. The screams begin. The antelope resists with instinctive fury, but the lions work to immobilize its hind legs and grip its neck. There is no escape. Each attempt to break free is restrained before it can cause harm, and the predators, with no room for compassion, aim only to end the assault before any nearby prey detects the scene and alerts the rest. Once it is brought down, the adult lionesses lunge for the softest, most nutritious parts, the belly, the organs, and the neck muscles. They are the first to feed, tearing the flesh with brutal precision. The males, if present, usually assert themselves after the first few minutes, pushing the females aside to claim the largest, fattest portions. The cubs remain on the sidelines, only approaching once the adults have satisfied their initial hunger. The entire process rarely exceeds 20 or 30 minutes before the remains begin to attract scavengers. Then the pride retreats without looking back, leaving vultures, hyenas, and jackals to divide what is left. While the younger ones demonstrate their hunger and prowess in the hunt in another section of the savannah, an old lion advances with an unsteady gait. His old scars trace a map of battles won and lost, of encounters that left a mark. His mane, disheveled and dull, still holds traces of earth. No one follows him, no one fears him. He carries only the weight of his own body and the days he has left. The breeze brushes his snout as he follows a path with no clear destination, ignoring the pride's distance and the lack of shade. He can survive more than one ambush, defend others' cubs, and steal territory. But this time, there is no visible foe. The only battle left to fight is against time. It is interrupted. From the low brush, several hyenas emerge through the undergrowth, their eyes fixed, their movements slow yet full of intention. The distance closes. They are a large group of hyenas. Their screams and howls erupt to weaken their enemy from the start, but the lion does not flinch. Even outnumbered and aware of the deadly danger, he stands firm, gaze steady, like a warrior unafraid of the outcome. This lethal feline is prepared to fight until the last second of his life. One hyena launches the first attack and retreats. The others mimic the maneuver, quick bites and immediate withdrawals. The lion responds with violent roars after each charge, refusing to miss a single chance to push back his attackers. But the weight of the years begins to show. His body, hardened by dozens of battles, no longer responds with the speed of old. His swipes lose precision, and his breathing grows heavier. Each time a hyena approaches and escapes, he is left more exposed. Blood flows from new wounds, but the lion does not retreat. The siege continues. The hyenas, patient, know they don't need to rush. They only need to wear him down. The old warrior attempts one last charge, but his legs fail. He falls to his side, and the dust rises in a thick cloud that quickly dissipates. In that moment, the hyenas pounce. There are no more roars, only a silent shroud as the cycle completes itself. The old lion is dead, and with him ends one more chapter in the story of this land. A few kilometers from where that old lion fell, another figure moves through the dense vegetation of the Congo. Although both belong to the family of big cats, their habits could not be more different. Unlike the lion, the tiger is a solitary hunter, with no pride to support him and no companions to share his territory. Every meal, every stalk, and every confrontation is his alone. He is an animal that prefers to remain hidden, moving with calculated steps, blending into his surroundings. He also differs from the lion in the way he manages his movements and territorial vigilance. While lions roar in groups to make their presence known, the tiger avoids loud displays. He leaves subtle signs, scratches on tree trunks and urine at strategic points. This is how he marks his domain without revealing his exact position, maintaining his advantage in the art of invisibility. But those subtleties vanish when he detects a distracted buffalo, turned away, unaware of the approaching threat. His wild and murderous instinct quickly erupts within him. He measures the distance, his body presses against the ground, and the undergrowth completely hides his figure. When the moment is right, he attacks with small bites, aiming to weaken it without risking an immediate counterattack. Unlike other predators, he avoids the neck at first and prefers to destabilize his prey before delivering the final blow. What makes the tiger a lethal hunter is his absolute mastery of stalking. He moves unseen, his muscles work in silence, and his strides are measured to the millimeter. The patterns of his fur, far from being mere decoration, play a crucial role. The black and orange vertical stripes blend with the undergrowth and the shifting light that filters through the jungle, making his figure take on a greenish tone to his prey, blending into the foliage. This natural camouflage allows him to get within mere meters without being detected, sealing the fate of any unsuspecting animal. But in this suffocating environment, it's not only predators and prey that cross paths. Flies, drawn by the remains of meat and fresh blood, invade the hunting site within minutes. They are more than a nuisance. For wounded felines, they pose a real threat. They can deposit larvae in open wounds, causing infections that in the thick Congo jungle are impossible to treat. Among them, the tsetse fly stands out as one of the deadliest. Barely noticeable to the human eye, it moves erratically but with precision, guided by heat and motion. With its piercing mouthparts, it lands on the skin of an exhausted antelope which barely senses the initial contact. The bite is brief, almost imperceptible, but its effect can seal the animal's fate. Trypanosomiasis, known as sleeping sickness, spreads this way, silent, invisible, lethal. The first symptoms alter the victim's behavior. The stung prey begins to isolate itself, reduces its movements, and its reflexes become sluggish. In close-up, its dilated pupils and erratic blinking are visible. An animal weakened in this way becomes easy prey for any predator roaming nearby. The tsetse fly, more than a simple insect, is a silent piece that tips the balance in the eternal struggle between life and death in the Congo jungle. Tigers, aware of the danger posed by such a tiny insect, rarely rest near the remains of their prey. Once satiated, they retreat to higher ground or dense vegetation, far from the stench and the swarm of insects that gather around the carcasses. This is how these felines manage to stay away from opportunistic scavengers and the relentless discomfort of insects, which in these latitudes give no respite. As evening falls, the tiger begins his patrol. He walks familiar paths, checking the points where he left his marks, sniffing every tree, every rock. He does not seek company, nor does he stand guard for anyone. His vigilance is silent and personal. During the night, there is no rotation or shift. Every threat or intruder must be detected and confronted by him alone. When the time comes to rest, he seeks shelter in secluded areas, far from the hunting zones. He may choose a rocky rise, a hidden clearing in thick vegetation, or the base of a fallen tree. Always alone with no other tiger nearby, for this animal, unlike the lion, shares neither his space nor his nights with anyone. In the same vast tapestry of the Congo jungle, it is not only the stealthy tiger that rules the ground. Above the treetops, in the domain of the air, an equally imposing and lethal figure moves with precision and calm. The presence of an eagle, a raptor that marks its territory from the heights, adds an aerial dimension to this ecosystem, signaling a new territory of hunting and vigilance. Like the tiger, this bird is solitary and silent, leaving its own invisible traces in the forest, ready to strike from above with the same patience and efficiency as its terrestrial counterpart. During the day, it flies over defined areas of the forest, using the warm air currents rising from the vegetation to stay aloft with minimal energy. Monkeys, civets, and antelope calves are part of its regular diet. When it spots prey, it dives from the high branches at more than 80 kilometers per hour and captures it with its talons. Few species can defend themselves against an attack at that speed, and the capture almost always ends with the prey immobilized. It does not seek company, nor does it need to announce its presence. In its world, every captured prey is a solitary and silent affair. Its talons squeeze with such force that almost nothing can escape once caught. This formidable hunting tool has evolved over more than 60 million years from the first great raptors that appeared after the extinction of the non-flying dinosaurs. Its anatomical design allows not only for gripping, but for piercing and crushing with deadly precision, suited to capturing monkeys, small antelopes, and even other birds of considerable size. Thus, these aerial predators maintain their dominance over the heights, unaware of the noise on the ground and attentive to every movement among the treetops. When surveillance from above meets vulnerability on the ground, the scene is shaped by an inevitable encounter. At ground level, a squirrel makes the mistake of leaving the protection of the underbrush. In these lands, it must face not only terrestrial hunters, but also predators watching from above. The eagle can spot its victim from more than 3 kilometers away, observing every movement carefully and waiting for the right moment to strike. Without warning, the eagle descends, its wings slicing through the air without a sound, and in an instant its talons wrap around the body of the prey. Unlike the big cats who aim to suffocate their victims quickly, this winged predator keeps the animal alive during the first minutes. The prey struggles, kicks, and tries to break free while the raptor pins it to the ground. The scene is filled with sharp cries and brief, futile attempts to escape. The eagle does not rush, it pecks, pulls at the fur, and presses with its talons. It is not an act of deliberate cruelty, but the result of its hunting method. Without fangs or a lethal bite, its strategy is based on immobilizing, controlling, and tearing. The prey will die from asphyxiation, blood loss, or shock, but always under the absolute control of those talons locked like shackles. In this ecosystem, each predator enforces its law according to its abilities. Lions and tigers end life in seconds. Raptors do not. Their attack is prolonged, not out of pleasure or whim, but because the anatomy and hunting method of this predator demand it, and while the jungle continues on its course, one life is extinguished beneath the unchanging gaze of the canopy, and another is nourished to face the next day. When life is extinguished in one corner of the forest, in another place a different scene begins, marked by the restless and noisy presence of baboons. These primates, always alert and organized in complex groups, form another essential piece in the fabric of the jungle. They move through open areas, clearings and riverbanks, traveling in large groups that can exceed 80 individuals. In their constant movement, they explore, watch and contest territory. Although they share the environment with other primate species, their aggressive nature and hierarchical organization allow them to impose dominance in the spaces they consider their own. Unlike other forest monkeys, baboons display a formidable set of teeth. Their canines, long and sharp, rival those of some predators like hyenas and leopards. They are not designed solely to tear tough plants or resistant fruits, but serve as weapons of intimidation and combat, both against predators and in internal disputes for leadership or protection of females. A well-aimed bite can break a bone or cause lethal injuries. They are capable of confronting a predator like the cheetah together, lunging at it, taking turns in lightning-fast attacks until the feline sees the fight as an unnecessary expenditure of energy and retreats. In this demanding ecosystem, few primates have developed such a level of coordinated aggression. Thus, within their omnivorous diet, besides fruits, roots, and insects, they take advantage of meat when the opportunity arises. They are capable of hunting small antelopes, birds, and other smaller monkeys. They digest meat easily, a capacity that has strengthened their resilience and position in the food chain. This behavior suggests a subtle behavioral shift, from habitual prey to occasional competitor for meat resources, an example of the adaptive plasticity that has kept them among the most successful primates in hostile environments. Among baboons, one of the harshest behaviors stands out as one of the darkest social rituals. When a new male rises to leadership of the group, he automatically displaces the previous dominant and often eliminates the offspring that are not his own. The female, subjected to deep stress, often suffers spontaneous losses of her offspring before they can be born, thus breaking the bond with her descendants. It is not a response of conscious brutality. It turns out to be an inherited biological mechanism that allows the new leader to ensure the transmission of his own genetic line. In the thicket, these scenes occur without pause among shrieks and rapid chases that trigger brief stampedes within the troop, as the baboons confront each other intensely, disputing every centimeter of ground and social position in a constant game of power and survival. Despite everything, their greatest evolutionary adaptation has been defensive solidarity. When a land predator lurks, the baboons do not flee in disarray. They group together, throw stones, sticks, and emit shrill cries. The oldest and largest males step forward, while others protect the young. This collective behavior has allowed the species to endure for hundreds of thousands of generations in a hostile environment, where everything that moves can become prey. But even so, their bodies remain vulnerable. While they manage to keep terrestrial predators at bay, they can do little against the jaws of a monster that rules the waters of the Congo. Beneath that same jungle, in the dense silence that lives alongside the waterways, another hunter waits. His strategy does not rely on speed or immediate surprise, but on infinite patience. At the edges of a narrow stream, where baboon migrations momentarily disrupt the forest's routine, a crocodile has learned to read the movements of its prey. For days, it observes, memorizes, understands the patterns that the unsuspecting visitors repeat without noticing. It is then that one of them, distracted, makes the inevitable mistake, walking too close. Without warning, without a prior gesture to signal what is coming, the jaw emerges from the water. The ambush is swift and brutal. The baboon struggles, kicks, tries to break free, but it is already too late. When the crocodile's mouth closes, an unchangeable sentence is imposed. Unlike its relatives from the savanna or open estuaries, the crocodiles of the Congo basin have adapted to hunt in dark waters, thick with sediment and surrounded by submerged roots. Their bodies, covered in muted tones and rough textures, blend with the mud and rotting leaves, becoming invisible in environments where light barely manages to filter through. This extreme camouflage ability allows them to approach their prey in confined settings, taking advantage of every shadow and every patch of vegetation to hide their silhouette until the very last moment. In addition to its skill as an ambusher, the Congo crocodile has developed a flexible and opportunistic diet. In a jungle where large prey is not always abundant, it feeds on fish, waterfowl, small mammals, and carrion when necessary. That versatility makes it one of the most adaptable predators in the region, capable of surviving in changing conditions and seizing any opportunity the forest may offer. With that single prey, this reptile can endure for entire weeks without hunting again. Its body is built to withstand the weight, and its mind to endure the tedium. It only needs to sink into the current, merge with the mud, and wait. In a world where everything seems urgency and motion, its law is stillness, a limitless patience that sooner or later always takes its toll. Even so, not everything in the jungle belongs to it. It avoids large elephant herds, irritable buffalo, and nighttime encounters with adult leopards, hunters as stealthy as itself, capable of attacking if the risk is justified. Its permanence in the water does not stem from fragility under the sun, but from the advantage that anonymity provides. There it regulates its temperature and turns every current into a hiding place. From the liquid shadows, every movement in the territory becomes an opportunity or a threat, and it knows how to wait. But even outside the water, its dominance remains precarious. A crocodile moves cautiously, almost imperceptibly, approaching a group of elephants. Its eyes are fixed on a calf that has momentarily become distracted. Upon noticing the threat, an adult elephant steps forward without hesitation. With force, it kicks up dirt with its feet and hurls it directly at the reptile. The crocodile stumbles backward, covered in dust, assessing the danger. It knows that a single step from the elephant could be fatal. Without taking further risks, it slowly retreats to the safety of the water. When the scene shifts to solid ground, the dynamics of the hunt change, though the tension remains unaltered. The lion pride and the hyenas, competing for every opportunity, watch every movement, observing closely the mistakes their prey make again and again. Their patience follows a different rhythm. They stalk and wait, but the distance is not always physical. They calculate, measuring the possibilities, evaluating whether it is worth the risk to expose themselves. In this jungle, every failed attempt leaves marks, and every rash move has a price. Even so, lions take risks constantly. Each day they manage to survive strengthens the group, which sharpens its strategies to adapt to the changing conditions of the environment and to anticipate the movements of their prey. They learn to exploit weaknesses, to move stealthily, and to coordinate their efforts to increase their chances of a successful hunt. But not everything follows the rules of the hunt. Violence emerges without warning, as a reminder that in this land every encounter is a dispute for the right to live. A lion finds itself cornered by a small group of hyenas. The tension cuts through the air. One of them, confident in their numerical advantage, moves too far forward. It is an irreparable mistake. The lion, without hesitation, lunges and sinks its jaws into the hyena's spine. She tries to break free, but the pressure is final. The screeches tear through the thicket, and her companions, who appear ready to jump to her defense, sense that intervening would only bring more losses. Amid that restrained chaos, the lion advances slowly, dragging its paws across the loose soil while its victim barely stirs, gripped by panic. It is a raw scene. The hyena clan retreats. The fate of the wounded one is sealed. Her agony may last for hours. Here, in this ancient jungle, lions do not feed on hyenas. They punish and through that command respect. They sense that this method is a deterrent. By not attacking the others, they allow the group to collapse on its own. In future ambushes, each hyena will remember that her companion was abandoned and will hesitate before taking the risk. But environmental pressures are not the only threat to lions. Within the pride, the hierarchy that holds the group together can falter when leadership weakens, leaving space for disputes and equally deadly challenges. A leader injured during a hunt loses authority, which results in his exile with no immediate chance of return. For months he learns to hunt alone, moves in solitude and survives on the margins, slowly growing stronger. His muscles tighten, new scars mark his skin. He is no longer the young male who was expelled, but a strong and determined lion returning with a thirst for revenge to reclaim his place. The confrontation unfolds with caution and strategy. Both lions measure their strength, stalk one another, exchange charges and swipes in a duel that tests their endurance and willpower. Several times, one retreats only to strike with greater precision, while the other defends every inch of his territory. Finally, after a series of blows that reveal the experience and ferocity of both, the young male succeeds in bringing down his rival. The fight ends and the former leader is left defeated. The pride remains alert without interfering, while the new leader asserts his authority. Although it may seem counterintuitive, upon his return, the lionesses automatically accept the new leader, since what truly matters is that he guards the harem and protects the cubs, thus ensuring the continuity of the next generation. However, this apparent harmony can be broken when the most sacred within the pride is violated, the protection of the cubs. Violence within the pride respects clear boundaries. When a male dares to harm the cubs, the lioness reacts immediately. Few scenes rival the fury of a mother defending her offspring. In those moments, the pride pulls back, respecting the most unbreakable bond in the territory, the maternal instinct. The protection of the cubs is an inviolable limit for the females of the group. No hierarchy can contain that wrath, and not even the most dominant leader dares to stand in the way. That outburst is not a warning. It is a swift and visceral sentence. The lioness lunges, swipes, tearing through the air, and bites without measuring consequences. The male, taken aback by the brutality of the reaction, does not fight back. He retreats, aware that the aggression is non-negotiable. The pride, in tense silence, watches the scene. In the jungle, neither strength nor rank excuses abuse, and in that moment everything is redefined around a simple certainty: the cubs are untouchable. The lion of the Congo is not like those from other lands. Here, the harshness of the environment has forged different animals. They are fiercer, more resilient, and their instinct has been refined by generations of constant confrontations. They do not hesitate, do not waver. Every opportunity is a vital resource seized without restraint. The difference lies not only in their behavior, but in their build. More muscular, with more robust skulls and an attitude that does not tolerate weakness. But there is one trait that reveals that hidden dominance. The mane of these males, darker and fuller than in any other region, is a clear sign of their high testosterone levels. The denser, thicker and darker it is, the more lethal the individual. It is a warning, a non-verbal language no rival ignores. That thick mane acts as natural armor and at the same time as a silent threat. What might be a symbol of beauty to a human, here is the mark of an efficient killer. In disputes, the dark mane better withstands swipes, protects the throat, and discourages younger males from challenging its bearer. And in the Congo, that marks the difference between living, dying, or ruling. This scenario changes with the rhythm of the seasons. When the rains arrive, the landscape transforms, and with it, the life of the lions. These animals, accustomed to harshness, adjust their habits and movements to the rhythm set by the water. The humidity renews the terrain, opens paths, and alters the availability of prey, putting their instinct and adaptability to the test. But they are not the only ones who benefit. Other animals, from herbivores to small predators, find in the rain an opportunity to feed, reproduce, or simply survive in an environment that, although changing, still imposes its rules. The jungle, for a moment, seems to offer a reprieve to its most astute and resilient inhabitants. There, where the darkness barely lets light through, the true king is not measured by size or brute strength, but by hierarchy, organization, and a collective mind that governs with precision. The soldier ants emerge as the perfect example of that silent complexity. Without shine, without boasting, these small warriors display iron discipline. Every movement, every command, is part of a system where survival depends more on collective work than on the individual. Their kingdom is sustained by the social structure they govern, a delicate yet decisive balance, more determining than the very boundaries of territory. They can be seen sweeping over areas of soil, lifting leaves and twigs, climbing with precision up rough trunks, attacking insects much larger than themselves, or even forcing small reptiles to flee before their relentless advance. In this complex structure, the hierarchy is clear and essential. The soldier ants fulfill the role of guardians and defenders of the territory. They are responsible for protecting the colony and eliminating any external threat that approaches. In turn, the workers handle the vital tasks for the nest's functioning. They gather food, maintain tunnels and chambers, and care for the young with precise organization. At the center of it all, the queen acts as the colony's beating heart. Her sole function is to lay eggs, thousands each day, thus ensuring the group's continuity and expansion. During the day, the colony follows a precise routine. The workers go out on expeditions to gather food, while the soldiers patrol the perimeters, ready to respond to any intrusion. A tarantula approaches cautiously, assessing the colony's perimeter. Every movement is measured, seeking a vulnerable point to attack. The soldier ants detect the presence instantly. Without hesitation, they organize in formation, blocking possible escape routes and securing a firm encirclement. The predator launches a quick attack with its front legs, attempting to crush one of the defenders. But the ants react with agility, dodging and retreating, avoiding the strike. With coordination, the soldiers launch as a group, attacking the most exposed points, clinging tightly to the tarantula's abdomen and legs. With patience and precision, they begin to tear through its armor, undermining its strength. Little by little, the tarantula loses mobility until it becomes completely immobilized. Then the ants proceed to consume it, dismantling it meticulously. Behind this lethal efficiency lies a story that dates back millions of years of evolution. These ants have perfected a style of communication based on chemical signals, pheromones that guide every collective action, synchronizing movements and decisions without a visible leader beyond their queen. But not everything is harmony. In the forests, constant wars are fought between different species of ants. These battles, far from arbitrary, arise from the inevitable struggle for territory and resources, essential for survival. The conflict is relentless, with coordinated attacks that seek to displace rival colonies and thus secure dominance of the immediate ecosystem. It is a conflict that cannot be avoided, a constant struggle between tiny but ruthless forces. Ants can recognize the difference between species through specific pheromones, chemical signals that function as a complex olfactory code. These signals allow them to identify invaders instantly, thus triggering an organized and effective response. When a rival colony approaches, the alarm spreads rapidly, and the mobilization is immediate. The confrontations are not mere chance clashes, but meticulously coordinated skirmishes. The soldier ants deploy in lines, block paths, and use their strength in groups to harass and wear down the enemy. Meanwhile, the workers maintain the nest and reinforce defenses, moving the brood to safe zones or repairing damage. Some species even deploy more sophisticated tactics, such as ambushes or simultaneous attacks from different flanks, aiming to disorient and fragment the adversaries. This constant struggle reflects the harshness of the environment. It is not a choice, but a necessity imposed by the competition for an ecosystem where every centimeter and every resource counts. The wars between ants shape the balance of the forest, determining who thrives and who must retreat or disappear. But even danger in the jungles of the Congo can come from the most unexpected places, from a lifeless enemy whose patience far surpasses that of the crocodile. Attracted by sweet trails in the air, the soldier ants march following an invisible path of pheromones that seems to promise easy food. What they do not suspect is that they are approaching a perfect trap designed not by claws or fangs but by a plant. It is a pitcher plant, a specialist in catching unsuspecting prey. Instead of competing for light or space like the rest of the vegetation, this species opts for a different method. Over thousands of years, its ancestors began to show interest in small animals, insects, and ants attracted by the sweet aromas released from its upper rim. Its leaves, modified into a pitcher shape, accumulate a viscous liquid inside, rich in digestive enzymes. The slippery edge causes insects to lose their grip and fall inside, where the liquid traps them and slowly breaks them down. In this way, ants are regular prey, drawn by chemical compounds that mimic food trails, a lure that sparks their curiosity and ends up condemning them. For the plant, these extra nutrients are vital in impoverished soils. However, its method is not without risks. At times, small rodents attracted by the sweet aromas slip and fall inside. Their bodies rot trapped in the digestive liquid and can end up damaging the plant, causing the interior to die and contaminating the pitcher. These accidental deaths even alter the immediate microenvironment. The stench attracts scavengers, carrion beetles or flies, changing the activity of insects and small predators in the area. Thus, in the jungle, even the quietest trap can become an unexpected source of chaos. But on the jungle floor, where everything seems asleep beneath the thick humidity of the night, other hunters emerge. The danger here does not always come from above, nor is it announced with shrill cries. Sometimes it crawls among the rotting leaves and exposed roots, stalking from the crevices like a nameless shadow. Silent, heavy-bodied, and absolute master of the darkness, the emperor scorpion moves with deliberation. Under the gaze of millions of years of evolution, this arachnid has perfected a relentless method: patience, stealth, and a lethal ambush. Unlike smaller scorpions, its size is striking. It can exceed 20 centimeters in length, with pincers so powerful that in many cases it prefers to use them before resorting to its venom. What is unique about the emperor scorpion is not limited to its strength. Under ultraviolet light, a natural ability of many scorpions, its body glows in bluish and greenish tones, revealing a spectral silhouette that normally remains hidden from the eyes of both prey and predators. This glow, produced by substances in its cuticle, functions as a kind of camouflage in the dim jungle, where light barely filters through. By reflecting faintly, the scorpion confuses potential threats and avoids detection. Its venom, highly potent, is capable of neutralizing lizards and small rodents with great speed. Although it does not pose a lethal threat to larger animals, this toxin is an effective weapon that ensures capture and defense against small-sized prey and predators. On a humid night, when the jungle remains wrapped in shadows, a small rodent moves cautiously in search of food. The nocturnal routine seems safe until, almost imperceptibly, a silhouette slides nearby. The emperor scorpion remains motionless, patient, with its pincers ready to strike. The rodent, unaware, sniffs and scrapes among the leaf litter without detecting the threat. The scorpion begins to advance slowly with measured steps, using silence as its greatest ally. As it gets close enough, it raises its tail in a threatening arc, prepared for the attack. However, the prey does not surrender easily. It detects a slight movement and tries to escape. The confrontation becomes a game of precision and reflexes. The scorpion uses its venom to immobilize the rodent little by little, not with a single sting, but with small repeated jabs waiting for the neurotoxin to take effect. Meanwhile, its prey tries to resist with strength and agility, but paralysis begins to take hold of its muscles. After several minutes, the victim is motionless, and the scorpion, with a mix of patience and efficiency, ends the encounter with its powerful pincers. The night goes on, and once it has hunted its prey, the scorpion returns to its refuge, where during the day it remains hidden beneath rocks, fallen logs, or in crevices in the moist soil, avoiding direct light and conserving energy. Beyond the hunt, the emperor scorpion's life cycle continues in the shadows with its own codes. When the opportunity arises, the male detects the presence of a nearby female. He approaches cautiously, measuring each movement, knowing that a mistake could turn him into prey. For a few moments, both observe one another, silently evaluating, until the tension subsides and the courtship dance begins. Then the male takes the initiative, gently grasping the female with his pincers and firmly guiding her to deposit his spermatophores. This interaction, which can last for many hours, requires measured and precise movements to avoid an unexpected attack. After this encounter, the female will retreat to a safe refuge to incubate the eggs, watching over them until the offspring are born and able to fend for themselves. In this environment, where survival depends as much on reproduction as on the ability to defend one's space, this arachnid demonstrates fierce determination. It is capable of standing its ground against any threat that invades its territory, regardless of the difference in size. In the world of the jungle, where retreat can mean the end, the emperor scorpion does not consider fleeing as an option. Every encounter is a matter of immediate survival, and its instinct drives it to resist, even when the adversary seems insurmountable. Tonight, however, fate places it before a different rival. Among the thicket, an agile and stealthy figure descends from the branches. Its movements are those of an experienced hunter, Adapted to the shadows and the moonlit clearings that filter through the leaves, it is the genet. With its elongated body, spotted fur and precise reflexes, this predator slips through silently, seeking small prey but not disregarding the chance to bring down dangerous enemies. The scorpion senses the vibrations in the ground. The sensors on its legs detect the presence of something larger, and instead of retreating, it raises its pincers and arches its venomous tail. The genet, aware of the risk, measures its steps. A direct confrontation could cost it dearly, but hunger and opportunity outweigh caution. Thus begins a duel that, in this setting, is not defined by strength, but by speed and cunning. The scorpion launches a quick attack with its pincers, trying to seize one of its opponent's legs, but the genet easily evades it, stepping back slightly and circling the arachnid in small loops. It knows it must tire it out, provoke it into wasting its attacks before closing in. The genet uses its front paws to touch the ground, creating small vibrations that momentarily confuse the scorpion, making it slowly turn toward each new stimulus. When the genet finally finds an opening, it pounces, seizing the scorpion's body from the side, avoiding the pincers and venomous tail. The scorpion tries to curl its body to deliver a sting, but the feline's agility surpasses its reach. A precise bite behind the arachnid's head ends the confrontation. The genet lifts the lifeless body and carries it into the shadows. Absolute master of the night, this small carnivore deploys a strategy based on patience and reading the surroundings. Unlike other predators of its size, the genet prefers to avoid direct confrontation and wear down its prey before attacking. It always hunts under the cover of darkness, taking advantage of its extraordinary night vision. Its large, rounded eyes capture the minimal light filtering through the foliage, allowing it to detect prey and predators from a considerable distance. Its body is agile and flexible, capable of climbing trees as easily as gliding across the ground. Its long, ringed tail not only serves as a counterbalance when leaping, but also as a tool to maintain balance while moving along the narrowest branches. This trait, along with the spotted patterns of its fur, allows it to blend into the broken landscape of light and shadow in the jungle. Unlike other carnivores, the genet does not usually establish fixed territories. It moves across wide areas, covering them each night in search of food. Its diet is broad: insects, small rodents, reptiles, and birds it manages to catch with quick and precise jumps. During the day, it remains hidden in hollow logs, tree cavities, or tangled vegetation clumps, emerging only when the sun sets. The genet does not hunt by brute force, but by opportunity. It watches, measures, and acts when the risk is minimal and success likely. That combination of stealth, speed, and environmental awareness makes it one of the most efficient hunters in the Congo. While in the thicket, the last nocturnal prey try to evade their predators, time moves forward without pause. The jungle grants no respite, and the cycle renews itself with other forms of dominance. As the darkness begins to recede, new protagonists claim their space, creatures that do not need sharp fangs or hidden venom to impose their presence. Deep in the tropical forests, where the humidity lingers among the leaves and the paths open only to those who dare, there are presences that do not need to hunt to dominate. The mountain gorilla is one of them. Its size defies the logic of its diet. A colossal body, which in adult males can exceed 180 kilograms, built on leaves, stems, roots, and fruits. It rarely resorts to insects, and even so, its strength far surpasses that of any other animal in its environment. That weight does not hinder its movements. On the contrary, it grants an imposing presence that transforms every path and clearing into its own territory. The daily routine of the troop unfolds between slow movements, resting areas, and clearings where the youngest play under the watchful eyes of the adult females. But among them all, only one stands out, not just for his size or the silver fur that covers his back, but for the tacit authority imposed by every gesture. He is the dominant male, the center of the social structure and the one responsible for maintaining order in the group. He does not resort to violence as a rule. His mere presence is enough to control distance and behavior. When necessary, a dull beat against his own chest, a brief run, or a steady gaze resolves any dispute. In exceptional cases, a physical confrontation puts hierarchies back in place. And once imposed, that dominance is respected unconditionally. This silverback alpha male is the only one who reproduces within the group. The other males, generally young or subordinate, do not have access to the females while the dominant one remains strong. However, his role is not limited to absolute submission. These secondary males are an integral part of the troop, participating in vigilance, protection, and the social cohesion of the group. Some remain in the group awaiting their opportunity, learning and strengthening bonds. Others eventually move away to try forming their own groups or challenge the dominant male when circumstances allow. Meanwhile, the adult females constitute the reproductive core alongside the alpha male, caring for and educating the young for at least 3 years, clinging to the maternal fur and learning to recognize the silent codes of the jungle. During that time, the mothers protect, feed, and guide their offspring, keeping them away from any danger, including internal tensions that may arise among individuals. The dominant gorilla rarely faces external threats. Large predators avoid crossing paths with the group, aware that even without natural weapons to tear apart, its brute strength is enough to snap branches as if they were mere twigs. Only on rare occasions is he forced to act, and when it happens, his response is immediate. Periodically, especially when a new individual joins or after the birth of a baby, the group of gorillas participates in a cohesion ritual that goes beyond a simple gathering. This event, which may be repeated several times a year, functions as a mechanism to reinforce social bonds and reaffirm hierarchies without the need for violent confrontations. In an open clearing, the dominant male strikes his chest with a resonant beat, a gesture that captures the attention of the rest. The others watch attentively, mimic the movement on a smaller scale, or remain silent, thus reinforcing the group's internal order. This ritual, far from being an isolated act, fulfills a key function in maintaining social stability and avoiding internal conflicts, a body language that reaffirms order and strengthens group cohesion. Although within this core the social balance seems firm, the reality of the Congo is different. In the vast jungle, where the law of survival imposes its rigor, violence and threat are constant. At the forest's edge, where the light filters through the canopy in small flashes, a leopard moves stealthily. This feline is one of the few predators bold enough to attempt to hunt a gorilla infant whenever circumstances allow. It is not a guaranteed prey, but a combination of hunger and opportunity that drives it to take the risk. However, getting too close to such a well-cohesive group implies a risk that few are willing to take. Among the scattered play of the young and the movement of the adult females, the feline calculates its advance. It slides beneath the leaves, measuring the distance to one of the smallest, who has wandered just a few meters away. Everything in its body is poised for attack, but a movement at the edge of the clearing halts it. The silverback has turned his torso. There is no need for him to advance. The mere presence of the male, his size, his tense posture, alters the hunter's equation. The leopard stops. It senses that continuing would mean exposing itself to a lethal response and, moreover, wasting energy on an unlikely attempt. And in this jungle, effort without reward means hunger. Without making a sound, it retreats into the undergrowth. Because gorillas are, perhaps, the only great primates without regular natural predators. Not because they lack enemies, but because no creature in this forest is willing to pay the price of facing them. The last echo of the beaten chest fades among the dense canopy. The troop of gorillas has vanished into the undergrowth, leaving behind the dense, humid silence of the jungle. But that emptiness is not absence. In these forests, everything that seems calm is merely a pause between two tensions. A few kilometers from there, where firm ground sinks into thick mudflats and stagnant water gives life to a vegetal labyrinth, dwells a creature that does not need brute strength to command respect. Its mere presence, motionless and upright among the reeds and papyrus, is enough to paralyze anyone who meets its gaze: the shoebill, a bird with an anachronistic figure, as if torn from an ancient time that has perfected the art of stillness. Its tall and slender body bears a bluish-grey plumage, and from its head hangs a disproportionate beak with serrated edges and a rough shape, like a wooden shoe designed to crush flesh and scales. Its eyes, of a pale, almost lifeless grey, do not only see, they pierce. It inhabits the wetlands and swamps of the Congo basin, especially in areas where calm waters allow the growth of floating vegetation. There, the density of the papyrus and the islands of water hyacinths hide its silhouette. It is a diurnal animal, although its hunting is concentrated around the edges of dawn and dusk, when fish breathe near the surface. Patient like few others, It can remain motionless for hours, stalking in complete silence. Its diet is carnivorous. It feeds on large fish, eels, aquatic snakes, small crocodiles, and even unsuspecting birds. When it decides to attack, it does so with lethal precision. A single movement is enough to capture its prey, which it tears apart with its powerful beak before swallowing whole. Unlike other large African birds, the shoebill is extremely territorial. It does not tolerate the presence of its own kind, much less of rival species. During breeding season, the defense of its space becomes violent. It produces a dry and chilling sound similar to the clattering of two hollow boards by clashing its beak as a warning. It is a signal few ignore. Its long and strong legs are an inheritance from ancestors that walked among the wetlands since the Paleogene period. They allow it to move through deep mud without losing stability. This trait links it more with birds from remote times than with its contemporaries. The relationship with its offspring is as harsh as its environment. It usually lays 2 eggs, but only 1 survives. From the first days, the weaker chick is condemned to abandonment, if not to direct aggression from its older sibling. A cruel strategy, but necessary in an environment where too many mouths endanger the entire lineage. In its habitat, few dare to challenge it. Only the big cats can become a threat if they manage to surprise it out of the water. But this rarely happens. The shoebill dominates its territory with a combination of stealth, sudden violence, and unshakable patience that, in this corner of the Congo, only a few can match. The water remains still again, with no more movement than the occasional tremble of a leaf stirred by the wind. The shoebill remains motionless in the stillness that has become its strength, absolute master of a space it does not need to defend with noise or displays, but with the simple certainty of its presence. Stillness returns to the wetlands. The shoebill remains motionless, master of a territory it does not need to defend with continuous violence. In this forest, patience is as lethal as strength. Not far from there, among the paths hidden by ferns and tangled roots, a young leopard roams his hunting territory. Hunger, combined with the seasonal scarcity of prey, has forced him to explore marginal territories where risks multiply and the rules change. In the middle of the trail, a low and robust body blocks his path. It's the porcupine. An animal that, at first glance, seems like minor prey, but one that the ancestral instinct of felines has learned to avoid. However, youth is impatient, and ignorance can be fatal. The quills, long and sharp, rise at the slightest movement. They are not simple, bony extensions. They are made of keratin, the same substance found in feathers and hooves, hardened and extremely sharpened. Some exceed 30 centimeters in length and can easily lodge into living flesh. They do not shoot out like projectiles, as is often believed, but the slightest contact causes them to detach and remain embedded in the attacker's body. The leopard hesitates. He circles his prey in tight loops, seeking a weak spot. The porcupine does not move aside, turning in place to always show its armed back. It is an ancient duel measured in which both know the consequences. In a burst of arrogance, the feline pounces, a swipe, a short leap. And in an instant, the quills pierce his snout, his front legs, and part of his chest. The pain is immediate, but the predator's instinct persists. A second attempt only worsens the wounds. In this jungle, poorly healed wounds are a death sentence. The quills lodge deeply, hindering movement and paving the way for infections that, in days, can turn the hunter into carrion. The leopard retreats, wounded, learning a lesson others carry etched in their genetic memory. The porcupine remains for a few moments longer, bristling, alert to any sound. Then it continues on its way, dragging its heavy body through the undergrowth. It is a solitary animal, nocturnal by habit, walking the same paths every night in search of roots, tubers, and bark. Evolution granted it its armor because, in this environment, even the small must learn to defend themselves without room for error. Thus, it survives without speed or strength, but with the certainty that here even the most lethal predator knows when to stop. Not far from where another young leopard paid dearly for his ignorance against a porcupine, an adult specimen moves through the narrow trails that wind between roots and ferns. His sides bear scars from old wounds, and his gaze reflects the experience that has taught him to measure every movement in the environment. The scent of disturbed soil and damp leaf litter betrays the presence of a group of African warthogs. These are wary animals, with robust bodies and sharp tusks, accustomed to defending themselves as a group when danger is imminent. The leopard watches from the shadows, barely moving, studying the dispersed formation of the warthogs as they dig and sniff through the mud. He knows that a direct attack would mean being discovered and that a single mistake could trigger a brutal response. So he moves silently, planning a swift and clean strike. Unexpectedly, an old and alert female detects him first. A short, sharp grunt warns the others. Within seconds, the entire group instinctively tightens and charges toward the threat. The warthogs do not flee. They harass. They charge as a unit with clumsy but forceful movements. The leopard, surrounded, leaps into the low branches of a nearby tree, avoiding by mere centimeters the tusks that slash the air. From there, he appears to be a cornered predator, but he is not. From his position, he calculates. The group's excitement has broken their formation. Some have surged forward, others lag behind. Without warning, he descends with precise speed. He drops onto one of the most lagging warthogs, grabs it by the neck, and before the rest can react, climbs back up, dragging his prey. Everything happens in seconds. The warthogs snort, circle back, but the predator is no longer within reach. High above, he slowly devours his prey, while below, the group disperses again amid grunts and mud. It is in situations like this that it becomes clear why, even in the most adverse moments, the leopard maintains his place at the top of the hierarchy. Not through overwhelming strength, but through instinctive cunning, a natural ability to turn an apparent failure into a lethal advantage. Unlike stealthy predators or creatures that blend into the undergrowth, rhinoceroses have no need to hide. They inhabit the open areas and forest edges of the Congo, where low thickets and mud wallows provide them with food and refuge from the suffocating heat. With bodies exceeding 2 tons and lengths approaching 4 meters, their mere presence alters the rhythm of the savanna. Their horn, a compact structure of keratin, is both their emblem and their curse. It is not a bone, but a mass of hardened fibers that can exceed 60 centimeters, and for centuries it has made them prized targets for poaching. In some populations of the Congo, the pressure has been so extreme that through natural selection, calves are beginning to be born without horns. A slow but necessary evolutionary response in an environment where their ivory is worth more than their lives. The dusty ground vibrates under the weight of 2 adult males. The first, younger and of unpredictable temperament, has been prowling the territory's edge for days. The other, older, bears the marks of past battles, whitish scars on his flanks, and a slightly splintered but intact horn. Confrontation is inevitable. There are no ambushes or subtle warnings. Both advance with lowered heads and deep snorts that shake the air. The strategy is simple, brutal, and ancestral. Charge with full weight, strike with the horn at the base of the neck or side, knock down and dominate. The first contact is dry, a collision that raises dust and tears off fragments of bark. The young male tries to circle his rival, attempting to flank him, but the veteran anticipates the move. He pivots on his hind legs, blocks the advance, and charges again. The horn strikes the opponent's shoulder, causing a visible gash. The young one retreats a few meters but doesn't yield. In these clashes, endurance counts as much as strength. For minutes, the charges, shoves, and horn against skin scrapes continue. The air is thick with sweat, dust, and adrenaline. Finally, the younger male, wounded and exhausted, withdraws into the undergrowth. There is no pursuit. The victor remains still, snorting, the temporary master of a space that only violence could define. In wildlife reserves, the struggle for survival plays out on a different level. To protect them, horns are removed preemptively, depriving them of their weapon, but giving them a chance against hunters. Still, the loss of these structures alters the dynamics of confrontations and the ecosystem itself. Rhinoceroses are relics of a remote Africa, creatures shaped by millennia of chaos and selection, survivors of droughts, human encroachment, and relentless pressures. Their existence is inseparably tied to the pulse of this humid, ever-changing land where every violent clash is a reminder of the fragile balance sustaining life in this region at the heart of Africa. This vast territory is sustained by a warm, humid climate that rarely offers respite. The persistent, dense humidity permeates the vegetation, the tree trunks, and the soil, shaping an environment where life must adapt and endure. The rains, distributed in long seasonal cycles, keep this forest alive, functioning as a closed ecosystem in which every creature competes for space, food, and water. This dense and constant environment allows for the survival of some of Central Africa's most specialized species. The excess humidity favors the accelerated growth of plants, mosses, and fungi, while clearings are scarce and contested by the largest animals. The forest functions as a closed ecosystem where the availability of food, shade, and water establishes hierarchies and movement patterns. At higher altitudes, the pattern holds. There are no severe temperature extremes or drastic changes to disrupt its rhythm. Everything responds to the abundance of moisture and the regularity of rainfall. This steady balance sustains life at every level. The same balance that shapes this ecosystem is also the source of its tensions. What survives here has had to adapt to an environment that allows no leeway. From carrion insects that clean the remains to the great primates who impose order with their presence, each species occupies a precise place. Gorillas have been seen claiming their resting zones, shoebills guarding their nests at the shore, emperor scorpions patrolling the soil's cracks, and genets moving silently before launching an attack. Each one responds to a cycle that does not break. The Congo sustains and demands. It does not tolerate weakness. The forest does not judge or forgive. It simply sets the rules.